We got Mac and Mac. I'm McMullen and Jody McDonald, but we add to the mix. Longtime Eagles beat guy, Les Bowen, who apologized. Said, "Oh, John, I can't believe I ever slept on you, John." Well, we got you now, Les. That's the only thing that matters. Appreciate you jumping on board for a couple of minutes. What kind of health is Jalen Hurts going to be in on Saturday? Yeah, like we're all sitting here just wondering and speculating. Maybe you got a better crystal ball than either me or Johnny Mac.
It's encouraging, I think, that there seems to be a good bit of healing that's gone on. I don't think he was very healthy for that last regular season game, and I think it became apparent, the way they talked about it afterwards, that he really, it would have been really nice if they'd locked things up a week earlier or so and not had to play him in that game. But I do think he's going to be functional. I don't know if he's going to be peak Jalen Hurts, but I think he'll be able to run their offense better than they were in that last game against the backups of the Giants, which, as we all know, wasn't great.
Yeah, you're right. I was a little surprised, Les, that Nick Sirianni, of all people, admitted Jalen was hurting like hell.
Yeah.
So, are they playing some 3D chess here? And maybe we'll see healthy Jalen Hurts in the playoffs? Or what is going on that Nick Sirianni, because we know Wink Martindale, and he changed up, to his credit, against Minnesota's sort of bracket. Justin Jefferson blitzed less than he has all season. I don't think that's going to happen this week. There's a target on that shoulder, and I don't want to infer that the Giants are going to do something untoward, but they want to hit Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
Are the Eagles sort of playing 3D chess, and we're going to see a really typical Jalen Hurts?
I hope so. I did hear initially that it was like a 4 to 6 week injury,
Yeah.
Who can say without really, knowing what his test showed and all that stuff, there's no way to really know how serious the injury is. But I do think from practice last week and from what players are saying that he's in better shape than he was. And how he takes a hit, what they're going to do to numb it, how much you can numb it and still be able to do the things he needs to do with his throwing shoulder. These are all things that are going to be very interesting to see, I think, as we move towards Saturday.
Les, we know it all starts with the head coach, but their entire staffs. We know that how important coaching is in the National Football League. For me, it's the most important coached game, more so than baseball or basketball or hockey. Who's got the better coaching staff, the Philadelphia Eagles or the New York Giants?
I think if you'd asked that question a month ago, nobody would have even given the Giants a nod on that. But recency bias, I guess. Everybody was very impressed with their playoff win, and they went into Minnesota and beat a team that had a much better record. And Brian Daboll certainly has turned things around there the way Sirianni did here last year. They do have a good coaching staff. They do make the most of their talent. I don't think they have nearly as much talent as the Eagles. I think it's very close. I think, Nick established a culture here very quickly that I think is an excellent culture. And obviously his coordinators are being interviewed for head coaching jobs elsewhere. His defensive backs coach, Denard Wilson, is being considered for a D coordinator job elsewhere. These are the Eagles have a very good coaching staff, but the Giants do too. And I really like Daboll's approach. I like, it was probably hard to turn that around in New York because it'd been a while, since anybody had done anything. It wasn't with the Eagles. These last two coaches that have come in have done that. Really, the last three, I guess, but. it was only like a 1-year lull or a 2-year lull that the Eagles had before a new coach came in. The Giants have been floundering for quite a while, and to get them going the way they have, to get Daniel Jones going the way he is, I think is a considerable accomplishment. And I think it's pretty even, really. I don't think either coaching staff has a huge edge this week.
Yeah, I think it's a very good staff, and you're right. Brian Daboll did a tremendous job on let's face it, since the Giants fired Tom Coughlin, Jerry Reese, essentially, they've made bad decision after bad decision, just run through coaches, and they finally seem to have gotten it right. Our old buddy Mike Kapka is the offensive coordinator. He's getting head coaching interviews. Everybody knows how good Wink Martindale is. They have a very good staff. But, I always joke, Les, you can talk yourself into things in the NFL because there's so much time in between games. And everybody's got good players. The Giants have good players, but the Eagles have more good players.
Yeah.
And the emotion, I think that was the Giants' first playoff win in 11 years, I believe. It's been a long time. The emotion of going on the road and then having to do it again on a short week, granted, it's a short trip. Over the last 10 playoff seasons, Les, there have been 22 lesser seeded teams pulling off the upset in the wild card round. They're 4-18. Is it that simple as, this is a good spot for the Eagles.
Yeah, I think Dallas's game last night should be comforting to Eagles fans because Dallas came into the playoffs looking, like it was in disarray with that terrible game against Washington to end its season. But last night, I kept saying all week, I kind of want to pull for Tom Brady a little bit, but Dallas is so much better. And that's what we saw last night. The better team won. I mean, it didn't matter that, that they never beaten Brady or that, they hadn't won a playoff game on the road in a long time or anything like that. The better team won, and I really think that's what will happen Saturday. But these injuries do lend a sort of, not just Hurts injury, but Lane Johnson's and Devonta Maddox's and, all the other injuries they have kind of lend a little bit of a mystery to it. But the Eagles should win this, yes.
Les, the Eagles and the Giants played twice in the last 6 weeks of the season, or 6 weeks from now, going back.
Sort of.
Yeah, they haven't even played twice, really.
Right, because
that's my point. Yeah.
Well, if you go back to the game in New York when both teams were using all their players who were physically capable of getting out there on the field, Daniel Jones rushed it 4 times for 26 yards. He had one good run, 17-yard gain, but the other not so much. He was a weapon against the Vikings last week. Jones is probably the quarterback that they faced this year that you should have the most respect for in the running game. How big a weapon is he and his legs this Saturday against Eagles?
I was really impressed by what he did against Minnesota. I wasn't quite expecting that. I knew he could do it, but their offense early in that game was it was like watching Jalen Hurts, in one of those games where he really uses his legs a lot. They really depended on Daniel Jones to move the chains quite a bit. Will they be able to do that against the Eagles? I kind of doubt it. Minnesota's defense stinks.
Bad
That's the one thing you kind of have to take, into account here is who they were playing. If he can do that against the Eagles, maybe the Eagles are in a little bit of trouble. But he is a good quarterback, and the Giants are healthier than they were when they got blown out by the Eagles. That 48-22 game wasn't even as close as the score.
No.
It was the biggest Eagles blowout of the season, I thought. And, I don't know if they're going to be playing at that level, but I do think the Giants are a better team. They've gotten some people back, and they've discovered some people that they weren't playing much at that point. And, I expect a much closer game than 48-22, but I still like the Eagles.
Les, you kind of alluded to the Eagles and Giants really haven't even played twice, but you know, you hear that trope. One of my pet peeves. It's hard to beat a team 3 times in the NFL. I think people hear it so much they just default to it and believe it. The numbers say the opposite.
Right.
If you're that good, you're probably going to beat the other team again because you're better than the other team. And on the road in those types of situations, in the Super Bowl era, 13-6, the team finishes the sweep. That's a 684 winning percentage, which is pretty good in the playoffs because you're playoff teams. That is a pretty good number. Any inkling at all that it's tougher to beat a team the 3rd time?
I've never thought that. Back in the days of the Andy Reid Eagles, that situation would come up a few times. I never gave it much credence. As you say, the numbers don't bear it out. And the bigger point, which you started out with there, I just maintain they haven't really played twice. The Giants played their backups. The Eagles played in house slippers, trying to sort of tiptoe through that game, which I would not have done. Do you guys get we didn't want to show the Giants anything?
No.
You've played 17 regular season games. No. What have you not showed them?
Yeah.
That's not going to be on film. Do they only watch the film of that one game to prepare? What the hell? I would have played that game very differently. I would have tried to stomp their backups and just leave no doubt about it. But, it worked out for the Eagles. It might not have if they did have to recover an onside kick to win the game, but, against the backups. But, I don't think that game counts much. I don't think either team, is what it showed in that game.
All right, last question for me. If someone like John McMullen, big money guy that he is, just gave you $100,000 and said, let's bet this on whatever team you think is winning this week in the NFL. No point spreads involved. Just pick the winner. You got to bet it. You can't put it in your pocket. But if you cash the ticket, then you get to keep the $200,000. If you got one winner this weekend in the NFL playoffs, who is it?
Boy, I haven't given that any thought, Jody. You're putting me on the spot. It might be San Francisco.
That's what you get for oversleeping, Les. You got to be prepped and ready to go there, big guy.
I should have been dreaming about this. This is what happens when you get old retired people to come on your show. Maybe San Francisco. The Eagles would be very tempting. But we are talking about point spreads here, right? I mean, you're not just taking...
No, just the winner. The team's going to win the game. No point spreads.
Well, I'll take the Eagles then. If we're doing point spreads, I would take the 49ers because I think it's like 3 or 4 points starting out.
4. Yeah,
I think they're a much better team than Dallas. But, I will take the Eagles straight up.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good. I will tell this at Les Bowen, by the way, follow Les on Twitter. If you're going to bet the $100,000, put it on Boston Scott scoring a touchdown because that's going to happen. I think the Eagles like trolling the Giants with the Boston Scott touchdown. So they'll get to the 1 yard line. They'll trot Boston Scott out there to get his touchdown. Bet the house on Boston.
By the way, when I bet that and cashed that ticket last game in the Eagles against the Giants backups, got 3-1. There's no way you're getting 3-1 this time. It has become so talked about and such a known. And as John said, the Eagles kind of play to it. You're not getting 3-1 this time. If Boston Scott gets a touchdown, you'd be lucky if you get 2-1. All right, let's where you watching the game on Saturday. You gonna be home or you gonna be down in the stadium?
I'll probably be home. I haven't.
Nice.
I don't have a gig, so I'll probably be yelling at them from my couch, like many people.
Does Mrs. Bowen come in and go, "Can you keep it down a little bit there, bud?"
No, she gets into it as well, but I like to yell at the announcers, and she gets upset with me about that. She does not.
All right, since you went there, what was your take on Al Michaels the other night in the game that the Jaguars walked off?
Oh, brother, that just, I'm sensitive to when people say, "Oh, he's an old guy, he should hang it up," because I'm not a young guy. I'm going to be 67 soon. But there are several things there. One is I don't know if they're doing a good job with spotters for him or not, but he doesn't seem to really penalties and things like that. Or you watch Tirico and he knows, what the penalty was before the referee announces it, and he's guiding the viewer in the right direction. Al Michaels at the end of that game on that field goal ruined the Jaguars moment because he's screaming, "There's a flag down! There's a flag down! There's a flag down!" Like he desperately wants this not to count. And everybody, it's got to be offside. It's a field goal. What is the offense going to do? Yeah. If the offense does anything that's a flag, they blow the whistle.
They gotta blow the whistle, yeah.
And the referees are waving their arms. Well, they're not. And, obviously you're going to try to block or try to get any edge you can, as the defensive team. So you're going to go offside. It was obvious to everybody what the flag was. And he wouldn't, there was no wonderment and no sense of joy that the Jaguars had pulled off this huge upset. It was all about the flag that was down. And this is true of him, He doesn't get that teams go for it on fourth down now. It's that's endemic, I think, to almost all announcers, even Aikman last night. Nobody seems to grasp, that. I don't know if they don't ever read any stories about this or if they don't take into account what they saw the week before, but it's like it's years of this now. And nobody seems to have changed the only people who haven't changed their minds are the announcers on this. Everybody else understands what's going on.
Everybody else, yeah. Well, but Rex Ryan was just killing.
He has a real hard time with a lot of things. And he needs, at the very least, he needs more help, in his ear.
Yeah, he gets, and by the way, he gets no hope from the ex-Colts Bucks coach. I'm sorry, Tony Dungy might be the nicest guy on the face of the planet. He could put an insomniac to sleep.
Well, there was no ageism last night with Brady and Jason Peters out there, but of course Jason didn't finish the game. But God bless him, starting in
shock for the Cowboys. Jason came up lame. Les, we appreciate your jumping in with us here for a quick spot. We got another guest coming. Thank you for doing so. Hopefully the Eagles get on a nice, long, extensive run, and we get you back on soon enough, bud.
Yes. Well, sorry to be tardy, but thanks very much.
Thanks,
Les. Got it. No, thank you. That is Les Bowen, longtime Eagle beat reporter. All right, coming up next, we're going in a little bit of a different direction. A guy who talks rather than writes Eagles on a day-in, day-out basis as the co-host of the greatest show ever. Hunter Brody's going to jump aboard with us here on Birds 365.